A round of applause for Mr. Dhavsip Lees, Officer on Special Duty to Chief Minister, Government of Maharashtra. Yeah, please. Then Mr. Prashant Chaudhary, Senior Director, Sales, Government, CA Technologies. A very renowned industry expert, Mr. Prashant Chaudhary. A round of applause for him, please. Mr. Harjinder Kohli, Vice President and Head of Government Vertical, Bharti Airtel Limited. A round of applause for Mr. Kohli and Airtel connecting people. Mr. N.V. Patel, Chairman of Vadodara Urban Development Authority, Government of Gujarat, a veteran in this field of urban development. A round of applause for Mr. Patel, our guest from Gujarat, and a guest from Andhra Pradesh, a high-tech place, and a very dynamic officer, Mr. Nikhil Agarwal, CEO of Innovation Society, Department of Information Technology, Electronics and Communications, Government of Andhra Pradesh. And now over to you, Mr. Kaustubh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll try and keep it as brief as possible because we hold you from the sumptuous lunch that has been organized. And in that process, we'll give you some points to ponder over as you relish your afternoon meal. I think the session right from morning has been very focused. The tone has already been set by the Principal Secretary IT and the Honorable Chief Minister. Smart cities are all about creating efficiency. When you know for a matter of fact that urbanization, the rate of urbanization is increasing significantly, there have to be methods, innovations, and solutions so that you can utilize those scarce resources and create a more livable, functional environment. But obviously, it is easier said than done because it requires a great amount of administrative and political will, and it also requires a greater amount of industry participation, their faith and belief in the government ecosystem, their belief that their contracts will be honored, their belief that this is a long-term solution, their belief that there is going to be an execution as per their anticipated plans. And I think that's one of the key criteria that the Honorable Chief Minister did touch upon. I'm very proud to say, and you have heard a lot about both the administration and the Honorable Chief Minister, but the fact of the matter is that he is a decisive, focused, technology-savvy leader. Who empowers administration, who to a large extent decentralizes, and then mentors and guides departments and individuals which closely work with him to achieve a common objective. The session earlier by the distinguished panel dwelled upon smart cities largely, and it also touched upon some of the aspects of the discussion that we will entail to do. It will be our endeavor to give you something which you can ponder on, and at the same time, we can discuss and see how we can reach meaningful ways to get this into execution. I have a very, very distinguished panel. On my right is Prashant Chaudhary. He's a Senior Director with Sales at CA Technologies. Prashant, welcome to the panel. On my left is Mr. Harjinder Kohli. He's Vice President and Head of Government Vertical, Bharti Airtel. On his left is Mr. Nikhil Agarwal, who is the CEO of Innovation Society. There is a lot that we need to listen from you, Nikhil, about Amravati. And the panel and the audience is looking forward. And on our extreme right is Mr. Patel, who is the Chairman of the Vadodara Urban Development Authority. I welcome everybody on this panel. And immediately what we'll do is that Prashant wants to make a very quick presentation. So we'll start with Prashant's presentation, and then we will open the panel and we will pick up specific issues related to technology and services so that this is more interactive. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you can. And I will also delve largely on the vision that the government has laid out. And I also want to touch upon the Digital Village program, which I yesterday reviewed in that tribal hamlet that the Honorable CM mentioned, Harisal. It's quite a fascinating project, and I'll be more than happy to share details about that. Over to you, Prashant.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone, and the esteemed panel and all the participants here. And as Mr. Kaustubh said, that since morning a lot has been talked about technology and how technology is an enabler. Before I start my presentation, I'll just like to add one point saying that even if it's enabler and it's icing on the cake, but I think it's a very crucial and integral part of any project which government has been doing for last over a number of years. So my experience has come from saying that let's not put it as a last thought process. I think it's a very integral part. So when we come into the designing part of whether it's a smart city or any eager project, I think that thought process we should have from the beginning of the project when it's getting rolled out. I will not go here because I think you had enough understanding in terms of saying what are the elements, and we understand these are the core components of smart city and which need to be managed. These are the core functions when you want to deploy a smart city, but the why I wanted to highlight this slide saying is what's working at the back end is IT infrastructure. There's been, if your IT infrastructure, which is underlying IT infrastructure around these smart city components are not functioning properly. We have experiences, and I think each one of you today also in your own projects related or depending on IT to make it an enabler, enable those projects. If they have failed, you have faced those challenges. So how do we really take care of such situations and make sure we have the right technology which supports the IT infrastructure which is going to run our smart city at the same time making it much secure as well. So I think let me not just get through. I planned it for a slightly bigger presentation, but I'm just skipping it. From a evolution perspective, that's what the dream everybody is today talking about. Let's make everything smart today. And when we say let's make everything smart today is we are saying let the businesses, let the smart city be run by software, and that's what eventually will happen, whether it's the citizen who's going to live in that smart city. The dream is for him is to use an app somewhere sitting there and do anything which he wants. He wants to find status about parking because he wants to travel to a place, whether he wants to pay his power and water bills. That's where the smart metering comes. So all this IT plays, the software component itself plays a very integral role over there. From an architecture perspective, look at this. It looks very simple, the bottom layer where everything is running, the sensors, the data being picked, the layer above where all the correlation of that data happens. And at the top is the dream for everyone saying, oh, we will have the visibility of how entire smart city is performing. And the command center guy sitting there saying, oh, everything is working as designed. Will that happen in reality? Or unless you have the right solutions which can give you where your IT is failing to enable that smart city, you have to have those kind of solutions. So I'll just touch on 3 areas which are very integral to success of any government and smart projects, which are the management part of your IT. Unless you are managing it well, you don't know where the systems are failing. The second is something where today even government has started adopting, saying, how can we bring in DevOps methodology into our development of new applications? So even if the applications come, but when you have to develop some core dashboards, projects, integration, unless you have DevOps kind of methodology, you'll not be successful. And the security is one part of it. Have a complete view in a real time. And I can see the visualization has gone slightly vary, but have a view of everything real time, because that's what command center says, not just from smart city core modules, but also from IT infrastructure perspective. That's what we bring in from CA, saying that you look at the ITs today, look at any larger projects where IT is enabler. That's what we bring to table, saying you know what is failing for you to get information from your any app part of the smart city, whether sensors are failing, a particular application is failing, maybe the core data storage and data environment is failing. React, and don't react, be proactive in terms of managing that kind of IT infrastructure over there. So don't worry about what technology comes in, whether you want to deploy mainframes to a distributed environment, database to an application. Very important to manage it all, and that's the starting point. I just wanted to highlight this slide saying that why projects are getting stuck and delayed for not just months, years. Because today there are so many constraints when you want to develop a new project, a new integration approach to a particular environment. The developers sitting there are struggling because they don't have access to either legacy environment or the systems which they can move from one stage of development to a UAT to a next step. Today you want to adopt technology which enables you actually to do this, make it seamless, take away the wait time, make the complete environment available to you in a virtual mode, saying that how can have every service available which you want to either develop, either want to do a UAT or want to do a pre-testing environment. That environment today with DevOps, technologies like service virtualization can be made available to you. So very important to keep that in mind. And key points here is, just want to highlight, eliminate constraints, rapid delivery of your applications. When you talk about smart city, and if it takes ages to deploy those applications, really doesn't make sense for us to go into that mode, and create and deliver exceptional consumer value, because end of the day, all this we're talking about is from that perspective. I'm rushing, but last part of my presentation quickly is, everything today in a smart city will be around digital identity. Every citizen will either carry identity which says what he can do, what he can access, what services he can avail. And at this time, when it will be an open world, because when you want to make something smarter, you have to open it to outside world. So those kind of threats, attacks, we need to make sure that environment is completely protected. Just making state-of-art command center and data centers will not help unless it's well protected at every layer. And this what clearly maps to the architecture of the saying bottom layer, how the data is protected, and every identity which is getting protecting. And this is typically we look at every citizen today wants to be secured, saying anything when I'm uploading my data, my personal IDs, and even if I store my credit card, everything should be protected in that environment. So standard way of doing security, we need to really look at it. Last part, the world is changing now. It's not just about that typical web browser based environment we connect to. Each one of you today are carrying at least 8 to 10 apps today. It's an app world. When I say app world, it is about API integration, and everything is working on APIs now. We need to extend the security not just to identities and users, but extend it to the API layer, saying make sure every environment where the integrations are happening on the API, same level of security is extended, where fine-grained API control, threat protection, because today everybody will look at when somebody wants to attack an environment and bring entire city down, will go and attack those APIs, will attack those applications which are running there. So we need to extend our security to a layer above, and that's what I want to say. So just to sum it up from this perspective, saying look at the architecture, each layer where we do data consolidation, pick up the right data which is relevant for a smart city, but at the same time managing security and securing it becomes paramount importance as well. So I just wanted to end here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Prashant. That was very brief and effective. We have Nikhil. Nikhil, you wanted to show the audience the previous and the new avatar of Amravati. So we'll give Nikhil a couple of minutes to do that.
Meanwhile, thank you very much, Kaustubh ji. Meanwhile, they are setting up the presentation. Just a couple of photographs. I'll not take much of time here. In fact, I was also born in a bifurcated state, but the pain was not as much as we have seen in Andhra and Telangana. My state got bifurcated. It's called Uttarakhand now from UP. But I don't know whether I call myself a Uttarakhandi or Uttar Pradeshi. But now I live in Hyderabad but work for Andhra Pradesh. This one which I created. So initially when the state was getting bifurcated, there was a lot of love lost. Still, there is a feeling of, I would not call it animosity, but there is a strange feeling between people in Telangana and people in Andhra Pradesh. The Hyderabad is now part of Andhra Pradesh, as you know. Andhra Pradesh is a very new state, very young state. Just 13 districts have come. There are certain opportunities which are there with us, For example, we have one of the longest coastline, almost 1,000 kilometers of coastline. That's a great opportunity for a new state like us. Then we have 6 functional airports. And out of which I would say by next year we will have 8 functional airports. None of the state in the country has so many functional airports. So that provides a lot of opportunities. And like Maharashtra, we are extremely lucky that we have a brilliant chief minister and who has an excellent track record, and he himself still call himself a CEO more than anything else. So I just want to show you very, very briefly about Amravati. Amravati, as you know, is a new state capital which has recently been announced, and Honorable Prime Minister has inaugurated Amravati. Now, some of you may not know, but the only state capital which was built up in the last 100 years was Chandigarh. It took almost 22 years to build up a Chandigarh. Now, when we talk about smart technology for smart cities, the smart city is something which already exists. Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, these cities already exist. We are trying to make them smarter. In the morning, one of the speaker has very rightly said, we are trying to think ahead for 20 years. Now, here comes an opportunity. The city does not exist at all. The only thing which you can see in city is this, is a very large Buddha Pratima, plus couple of, like the highest tower in Amravati as of now is 4-story. That does not exist. Everything will be raised down. 30,000 acres of land. There's a unique model what the Honorable Chief Minister had done. 30,000 acres of land has been land pooled from the farmers. And they are participating. Now they are the stakeholders, they are the shareholders. Farmers are the shareholders in the development of Amravati. Willingly they have given us the land. The city does not exist. Now, if the city does not exist, can you make it smarter? Or you have to make it smarter or already a smart city? In next 2 years' time, this is our promise. The first set of buildings will start coming up. The new, we have just seen the blueprint for the new Mantralaya, what is coming up, is it will be one integrated complex. Now, how the vision of a leader does matter. Morning, I was extremely impressed the clarity of thought what the Honorable CM has. Giving a discussion on hardcore topics for 30 minutes without reading a speech, which is phenomenal, which is absolutely laudable. You know, some of the thought process is extremely clear. I remember we were sitting with the Chief Minister a couple of days back, and we were showing him one building. We are building an iconic tower in Vizag, approximately 1 million square feet. And we were, JLL has developed this, and we were showing the building. It's a really nice building that we have built up. I don't have a photograph for it. We said, sir, this will be signature tower and will require around 300 crores to build up this building. He was looking at it, and it was 7 o'clock in the evening. And normally the CM starts his work. Most of the CMs, most of the good CMs, even the Prime Minister starts very early. He was looking at it. Can you do something else? Can you build up 2 million square feet? Then he said, can you build up 5 million square feet? And myself, secretary, we have another advisor to the government. He was earlier DIT secretary, J. Satyanarayan. And we were quite perplexed, like 5 million square feet? Then somebody said, sir, we can build up 5 buildings of 5 million square feet. No, I want 1 building. Then he said something which really suddenly, like, has, Hindi mein bolte hain, rongte khade ho jana. He said, when the Google satellites goes from the top, he should be able to see that building and say, this is Vizag. That was the vision of a chief minister. And I said, now, wow, this is a man we should work with. This will be the structure of Amravati in the next 10 years' time. It will be from the day one, it will be a smart city. It's an opportunity for India. It's not an opportunity only for Andhra. It's an opportunity for India. It's an opportunity to create another Singapore, another Dubai, or probably all the Shanghai, Pune, and everything put together into one city, which we probably will never get in our lifetime. We are building up a city from scratch. 30,000 government servants will live, 500,000 population will move into Amravati in next 2-3 years' time. This is another view of Amravati. It will be first truly global smart city built up from the scratch. And of course, that provides a huge opportunity for everybody. for builders, for technology people, for somebody who want to do experiments. Number of companies are working with us. We were recently in US, and practically every company who matters in the world is coming and asking, then can we do certain experiment? Be it Cisco, be it Oracle, be it Microsoft, they are saying, can we do certain experiment? Because that opportunity does not exist of creating something smart from the scratch and such a huge level. So with this, I would like to invite you all to come to Andhra Pradesh, and please experiment with us, because you're not experimenting only for Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh is still an integral part. We may be bifurcated from Telangana, but we are still Akhand Bharat. We are part of the Andhra Pradesh. We are part of the India. The second announcement which I want to make very quickly is, like on my left there is a panel. On 21st of this month, next month in fact, we are having e-governance conclave in Vijayawada, and we have promised everybody, all the participants, we will take you to the old Amaravati so that you can witness yourself. You can take your photograph and put it on Facebook, what you have seen today, and then when you come in few years down the line, what you will see. So please do come over. All the ELETs, it's organizing this. You will get the information very soon, and I will be extremely glad to welcome you to Vijayawada in 20 days' time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikhil. It's quite inspirational. Let's get going. My first question is to Mr. Kohli. If you can just give the audience a perspective about what you feel are the constituent components of building a smart city from a technology standpoint, and what's the role that your company is going to play in this overall smart city technology piece and the state's participation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I think we've been hearing a lot of words for last couple of, or at least for 2 years now. We're talking about applications, apps. We're talking about IoT. We're talking about smart cities now. I would like to say one thing, that all these words and the technologies which are going to go behind all these initiatives, which are could be a cumulative or a standalone initiatives, they're like a part of your human body. If you say app is a brain, some of the other stuffs on the smart city is your heart. But let me tell you, the communication part, which people like us at Airtel, or being fair to our industry peers, other telcos, we are the oxygen providers. Because no matter how strong or how vibrant or how powerful your application is, how sturdy or your processes in those designing those application or the process flows are, but if your communication channel is not able to help you transmit the data, your software is as good as zero. So the importance of a strong and a robust communication channel is, I think, like a highway. You need to have a very strong road. You cannot drive a Ferrari or a large truck on a cart track. And there are times when you actually need a cart track, okay, because you will not be able to run in an urban environment a horse cart on a highway. So people like us, the technology, who work with the various players in the market, whether you have a connectivity which is a terrestrial connectivity in terms of fiber or copper, you have an RF connectivity, you have a VSAT connectivity, and above all, which is going to play a very, very critical role, is your mobile connectivity. Because if we are moving towards an application world and we're looking at a smarter world, most of the communication is going to happen on the mobile network. And that is a communication platform which is the oxygen, which is going to get power. In fact, today, I'm sure all of you would be, or many of you, I would say, I'll take the liberty of saying, would be our customers at this point of time. But what you as individuals might not know, of course as industry, and some of you are also our customers from the industry perspective, as well as partners, but a lot of government e-governance programs, a lot of these applications are even today powered by Airtel. For example, your Delhi Police e-challan system, we are doing APDRP in 7 states where we are providing connectivity over a combination of various forms of connectivity. And to give you a perspective, we talk about 3G and 4G. A Delhi Police, 1,200 handheld devices, which is cutting the challans of the traffic police, they have done away with the manual form of challan almost about 2 years back now. That is running only on a 2G connectivity. There's no 3G out there because the application developed is so thin, it does not require. Whereas if I look at a case of an APDRP of a particular state where we are connected about 1100 sites, it's a combination of copper, it's a combination of fiber, it's a combination of VSAT and a mobile, which is a 3G as a last mile to deliver a seamless network coming onto a single MPLS cloud. So unfortunately, you know, communication pattern or the communication arm is slightly underlooked at this point of time, but that is the arm which plays the role of an oxygen, and we are very, very closely working with all the states. And let me make a very, I don't want to be arrogant, but this comes naturally. As a largest telco in the country and third largest in the world, we will be a part of any of these e-governance and smart city initiatives. We will not be ignored, and we would want to be a part and parcel of whatever is happening in this field. In fact, we have taken a position of a pseudo-system integrator where we have gone beyond the role of a communication or a telco, and some of the applications which we have in-housed, for example, Delhi Police, which we are doing it totally on our own. We are doing something in health in MP. We are doing Bangalore City and Karnataka State Challan. We are doing ITMS project in Kerala. So these are some of the applications. We have developed an ecosystem. But yes, we will never get into, or at least at this point of time, we don't have any plans to get into an application development or an ERP rollout kind of this thing. So there we would always want to work as partners or collaborators out there.
Very, very, very encouraging words, Harjinder. I totally agree. I think very strong participation from industry is going to bolster the government's efforts for a faster execution. So I hope that your feeling is contagious, and we invite all industry to participate with free fervor. We next have Mr. Patel, who is the chairman of Vadodara Urban Development Authority, very similar to MMRDA and CITCO. And Vadodara obviously is one of the important cities of this country. We want to just get a perspective from you, sir, in terms of, you have been obviously running the authority for quite some time, and आपने smart city program के बारे में सुना भी है. So I just want to get a perspective कि technology का integration planning stage, how do administrators, walk this difficult line?
In fact, as far as Vadodara is concerned, we have already engaged 3 consultants. One is John Lang Leslie, another is Tata Consulting Engineers, and third one is a Town Land Consultants. And through these consultancy services, we are going ahead for making all the activities conducted by the Vadodara on a smarter platform. This includes even the water distribution system. We are going to provide 24 hours water supply to each and every house, 7 days a week and 365 days a year. And the metering also will be smarter one. From a distance, you can collect the data of the metering, and even there will be mass metering also, because there can be some leakages in the pipeline that also can be identified, because there are 100 houses or 1,000 houses. Their metering quantities X, and the mass metering, which is composed of all those, will have Y quantity. Then automatically we can find out that there can be a leakage between this juncture, and that also can be identified. So it's not only the water distribution system will be smarter, same way drainage also, there will be so many sensors. That is, drainage, it goes through the gravity. And gravity, you cannot go so deep, so 100 feet deep pipeline cannot go. So when pipeline goes 25 or 30 feet deep, we provide auxiliary pumping station there. And water gets collected in that well, and then pumping starts. So automatic level indicators also will be there, which will be monitoring, and there will be a control center also, command and control center, which will be having all these information, and automatic pumping will be also taken place. And this sewage treatment plant, all this sewage water has to be treated 100% and has to be reused also. because this water is a costlier commodity. You cannot throw it away. It has to be reused. And if at all we cannot do this, perhaps we are wasting national wealth. Not only, even the street lights in the city are going to be smarter. And all LED will control with sensors. Say, for example, at night time, no light is required, so very dim light will be there. But if at all there is some movement on the street, not the dog, but the vehicles and the people, automatically it will be sensed by the sensor, and automatically the lighting will be improved. So many things, not only even the people's grievances redressal, that will be also online, connected with the command and control center. All these services and utilities will be online and will be having a smarter way of controlling it.
It's very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Definitely deserve an applause.
Thank you.
Prashant, in terms of, so one of the key challenges that government generally faces is what is the ideal model to kind of bring in partners to participate with the government on technology infusion, whether it's application. And obviously, various models have been successful. Some have fared, not fared so well. There is PPP, there is EPC, there is BOT, there is BOT, and then there is transaction-based. What in your opinion, since we are embarking on an important program, in terms of entire city participation, what model do you think does the industry kind of is comfortable with to partnering with the government, where they see long-term sustainability, enough profit making, and at the same time completing projects on time?
See, I'll take your question in two parts. One is in terms of primarily larger players like system integrators when they come in. One is in terms of they look at also when they partner with government, they want to also look at get benefit out of it, get some profits, so that they can also deliver what government is looking at. I think maybe we leave the discussion of saying whether it should be PPP, a boot or a bot model kind of thing. But I think first, maybe one point if we can also look at is today most of the projects in our country we still do based on L1 basis. If there can be a more balance or the ratio can be re-looked at in terms of saying that T1, L1 kind of thing, how much weightage goes to T1 also, that is one area maybe we can adopt, saying that that will really help, because today that is one point which is not hurting government, but at the same time as a citizen it hurts us also, because when the projects are not implemented well, nobody gets benefit out of it. So that's one part of it. Second area is, I'm saying when technology comes in, there has to be a holistic view to looking at everything. One is what goes in the smart city, even from a technology provider. I can say, like on Friday I was in Calcutta there was a PSU summit, and we had a round table sitting with some 20 CIOs. And I asked them, how does your IT environment perform today? He said, the network guy says it's working so well. The database guy is saying it's doing so great. The application guy never shows any problem. Everybody can give reports saying 99.99 availability. But this is what I've been saying, this is fallacy of availability. The end user gets 74% availability out of this model. So we need to look at the other way rather than looking at each one of them individually, otherwise we will never be successful. So that's
Thank you, that's very interesting thoughts, Prashant. Nikhil, in terms of executing a project of this scale and scope in Amravati, what do you think are the critical success factors, and where do you see, God forbid, where do you see, issues, where, from an administrative standpoint, whether from an environment standpoint, because you know how it is with MOEF, and thankfully we have a very favorable regime there now, but projects have been stuck for, decades, and Mumbai Coastal Road was stuck for so many years, we were able to clear it just now. So where do you see the critical success factors? That's one part of the question. And where do you see the real hurdles coming in terms of your quick execution?
Now, I think Kaustubji, thank you very much for pointing this question. We both come from the government side, and one thing I want to put here is these kind of projects are not belong to one political party, does not belong to one government. We we are a democratic country. Every 4 years, something may happen. We don't know whether the same regime will come or not. The ownership, the political leadership and the bureaucratic leadership has to take ownership of this project as a Bharat project, as a India project. They should be completed. And what you have said, I completely agree with you. Certain governments have started something and next government says, oh, everything was happening in the previous government is wrong. And as a government servant, I would say that should not happen. Because ultimately what happens? India suffers, or a state suffers, the people suffers. The second important point for these kind of mammoth project is the funding. The money comes in. One of the great fallacy for India is that everything can be done by the government. The government project is there, money will come in, but it's not the case. The fund requirements are everywhere. There we require a participation from the private. PPP has been model which has been successful or unsuccessful. That's a debatable topic for quite some time. But I have not seen a great success of PPP as of now, as we have envisaged. In these kind of models, the private participation has to ramp up dramatically. That is something which we require. Ownership. So as soon as the private participation increases, the government is out of the picture. And the government is out of the picture, chances of it becoming success higher. With all due respect to the government. But the reason, I'm not saying government as a one person or government as a, but government is a system. Because then, as he has said, it goes to the environment ministry, it goes to certain thing, it goes to one fine day, one secretary or one minister thing, this is something should not happen. It just got stuck up. So we have to make sure that this ownership of this project, this kind of project should be at a much larger level. Morning secretary was talking about 100 cities as smart cities. Now we should not wait for the government of India to announce those 20 cities. In all our cities, all our communities, can we do something? Can we start participating? Can even one corporate, every single corporate who is sitting in Mumbai, we are in South Mumbai, there are hundreds of companies here. If you pick up just one city or one village in the entire country, there will be at least 20,000 villages we can do by next year. That kind of participation we needed from the industry side. So that's my appeal to the industry.
Harjinder, in terms of, in the morning, the Honorable CM spoke about the total internet penetration in Maharashtra. It's about roughly about 24 million or 26 million subscribers we have, both wired and wireless. And the focus essentially, and I think a large part of it is obviously urban, but we had about 8 to 10 million in semi-urban and rural areas in Maharashtra. It has always been a challenge to kind of increase the penetration of connectivity across Maharashtra or perhaps some of the states. Any specific ideas and plans as to how the government can expedite this, and what is the role that your company or your fraternity can play in this endeavor?
So I think the national data, when you talk about the rural penetration, is close to about 40 to 50% at this point of time. But if you look at it, though the focus of 4G is predominantly on the 3G or 4G is the urban sector, but there is a fair amount of investment which telcos are making in increasing their rural penetration. And I think that has also got multiplied by the fact that when we were talking about smarter cities and you're talking about, the whole community or the whole country, the Digital India initiative which is getting connected, and so I think that is a natural progression. So as far as the investment from the private sector is concerned, one is maybe mandatory from the regulator that you have to have so much of penetration, but I think it is also from their own business point of view they're evaluating as to which are the first areas to kind of tap, because it is a capital intensive industry. But yes, the penetration into the rural sector is definitely increasing. I think there is another push by the government and the industry also realizes is that we really do not know at this point of time what is the potential individual, I'm talking about the human resources potential which is lying in the village sector. Today, if you make the internet available on a mobile device or through the Digital India or through broadband, whatever, you never know. Tomorrow you might have, business models or some of the path-breaking technologies which could come out of the rural sector. We have seen what television did to some of the talents which are hidden into the B and the C and even the rural sector. So I think it is there. Our internet penetration rate probably is growing at the fastest across the globe because our penetration rate was low, you know, unlike some of the advanced places. So I think the story is very strong, and that is where everybody is also putting their money onto it.
Will you be open to a proposal from the government saying that, you know, we will ask you to adopt, let's say, 200 villages and make them completely connected in the next 6 months? Will you be open? You means you're representing a fraternity. Do you think that your fraternity is open to ideas of this nature, and whether you can do CSR funding?
Yeah, so you just took the word CSR out of me because I said as long as it is not a CSR, you know, I can say if it makes economic sense, commercial sense, definitely. I think if it's a viable business proposition, somebody who's running a legitimate, profitable business, who would say no to it? As regard to CSR, I think every large organization, especially telco, which is essentially a large organization, is doing their bits in CSR. Yes, it's debatable. Can they do more? And CSR is not only giving free connectivity. There's a lot of other CSR activities which are in terms of schooling. I mean, let me tell you, I'm based out of, I work out of Gurgaon, and I'm also based out of Chennai. And I was not too sure whether I'll be able to make it to this event or not, because I knew it's been raining and my house was marooned because I was surrounded by water. So there are a lot of, you know, whether you do a CSR activities to kind of do those kind of things, is that more important, or towards a smarter city to do it? So I think everybody is doing their CSR activities, and it is again not at an individual level but at an organization level.
All right, that is very polite of you to say no, thank you. Mr. Patel, just in terms of obviously execution, the Honorable Chief Minister did mention about execution, and overall execution has been a challenge. It's not necessary with the government, also with the private companies, the companies which tend to execute faster and generally tend to do well, and they have better stock value and so on and so forth. So what is your message to both government administrators and also to private companies as to how to go about doing focused execution when it comes to new projects?
It's very important. Training and skill development is very important in this field. When we are thinking of going ahead on the smart city for hundreds of cities, then the entire existing staff, they are not tuned to that. They do not understand the technology. They do not have the technology for updating the services also. And their attitude is also different. They don't address the complaint of the citizens. So to me, it is very important that these people must be trained thoroughly. Otherwise, there will not be a success. Training, and training. Not only changing the mindset, adopting the technology, and making himself suitable to the job. This is very important, otherwise things will not work. Another thing, important thing, people's participation. If people don't participate in the entire system, then also this entire concept will be a failure. Thank you.
Great, there are great words. So what better way to kind of, you know, end our panel on great words from Mr. Patel. We will have, we can take a few questions if you have the energy to ask questions, then we'll more than happy. The gentleman at the back, and then we'll take him. Please state your name and then please direct your question to anybody on the panel.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Prashant Datta and I'm from CMS Computers. Listening to the panel discussion is very insightful and definitely is very, very enlightening. But at the same time, you know, like I also feel very fortunate to be a part of this country, and I look at the entire development and the entire discussion with a lot of excitement. I understand that there's a lot of buzz around that, you know, cities are going to become smart. Something which is nothing at this point of time, like Amravati is being talked about, is going to become very smart. And this enthusiasm suddenly disappears on certain times. Say, for example, I commute every day from Thane to Mumbai, and when I stand for 20 minutes, merely to pay the 35 bucks, it's not that I want to cross that area, it's that I want to pay. And I believe that similarly, commuters in different cities across the country must also be facing the same thing. That is where the question arises in my mind, that whether it's just merely a buzz or whether the intentions are in place, whether the willingness is there in place, or something is amiss. Every day I open the television, I see that a young, smart girl comes and says, we provide the fastest internet connectivity through the mobile phone. And you know, like I see that I'm paying for 3G, I'm getting 2G. The data does not work. So therein, you know, like this question comes. Now this is something which I'm asking not specific to any company or any department. This is a question which arises in the mind of a common man, and I ask this question to this honorable panel as a common man.
Okay, I'll take the liberty of starting, and then, so if in any typical setting, the answer to that question is that we are a state government and that's a railways issue. Okay? But I will refrain from saying that. That's a very peculiar issue. You're absolutely right. There are some very basic things that need to be put in place. Fortunately, the government of Maharashtra has created a digital platform called Aple Sarkar, where we are integrating a lot of services. Railway services do not come under our ambit, but this is an issue that every Mumbaikar, like you, me, I'm also from Mumbai, we face this whenever we commute. From a larger standpoint, there is something called as Unified Metro Development Authority, which is basically transport authority which is getting created. In the near future, when our Metro 3 line, which is already cleared for execution, the two metros from Dahisar to Andheri and from DN Nagar to Dahisar are already under tender. When they all start getting into execution phase, you will have a single pass entry for all transport across Maharashtra, specifically Mumbai. So the Chief Minister has already set the tone. We know this problem. We are in the state of conscious incompetence. We are aware of the problem, but right now there are issues that need to be kind of prioritized and tackled. This is an issue which will be tackled. Hopefully, next year when we meet, we can safely on the same platform say that to a very large extent, we have addressed this issue. Anybody else on the panel can kind of take that.
I'll give you more of an academic answer than Kaustubh has given you more government answer. There are certain problems in the country that as a citizen we have to look at. You have asked the question as a common man, and I'll give you answer as a common man, not as a government officer. We are adding 50,000 people a day to this country. The new people, every day. So by the time we'll finish this conference, 50,000 new people will be added to this country. Now that provides, and of course there's an opportunity, new set of people, new consumers, new things are happening. But at the same time, it's a great challenge. Most of the Prime Minister talked about, Honorable Chief Ministers have talked about Swachhta. Now when you travel to the road, why one lane is closed? Always one lane on the left is closed. Have you seen any time with the reason? Because most of the time, Kuda is there on the road, you cannot drive a car. Government is doing their bit. Government is outreaching. Government is talking about it. In Andhra, we have Swachh Andhra mission. But we can educate the people. We can tell them, please don't do this. But if you want to close, now every road is clear, one side there is a Kuda, the whole road is closed, only 2 lanes are passing by. Government has done the road work and they are willing to take it forward. What else? As a citizen, as a common man, we have to make sure that these things, we need to have a little bit of more civic sense as an Indian, I feel particularly. As an Indian, we need to have more civic sense. Number of problems can be solved. At least 30-40% problems will be solved of getting into the queue or jumping the red light or stuck into the traffic jam. Number of these challenges can be solved in the urban environment.
Mr. Kohli had a point.
So I'm going to take a little more of a, the practical side of it. I think all of us present out here, who are especially all those who are 30 and above, I think we ourselves have seen a dramatic shift, If I remember, if I take my personal example, I think my first incident or first remembrance where I thought it was a wow factor from the technology and making a life convenient was the first ATM card I got, right? And today, I mean, if you talk to your kids, for them it's like it's been there. I think anybody who's 30 and above has at least stood in a line to get a railway ticket done, right? Today we don't even go. And today to an era where we don't even go to the banks. So we have seen those changes. We have seen those leaps and bounds ourselves. Nobody can be a more testimony to that fact out there. So I am convinced that yes, what you are saying is a problem, that it takes so much of time. You know, it takes so much of effort. There is. I myself said I was not too sure whether from the water logging I'll be able to come out here or not. So we all have those things, but I'm looking at what we have experienced and from where our childhood to what our kids' childhood is today. I'm confident that, you know, the things are going to change for the better. And whether we see it tomorrow or we see it, you know, in our gray years, I already have gray hair, but it's a matter of time. So yes, the speed, but the government has done its fair amount of bit, a lot more desirable, because opening up the policy was the first government, you know, thing which helped us to see that we don't go to the banks. Many of us don't go to the banks also. So I think this generation itself has seen what it was and what we are, and it's a transformational leap.
Next year, if we don't fix it, you know whom to meet, huh? Okay, you can come to our offices. One last question before we wind up the panel.
I know this question is just before lunch and people want to rush to lunch, but this question is for you, Kaustubh, and of course I'll come back to Nikhil later. You've done this moderation of this session very, very well, but more importantly from our perspective as a common man, you've been at the center of a lot of hub of activities from the time, the last 1 year, 1.5 years, right? And there's a lot of action happening on the ground, or there's a huge plan that is made out. As a person probably from an industry, what are the top 3 challenges that you've faced to get things moving? And the intention is never a problem. I think that most of the officers with whom we see, we interact, we work, the intention is there. From your individual perspective, this is Kaustubh, top 3, and if I may just add, so that again people don't feel hungry, Nikhil, for you, you're actually starting off almost on a greenfield project or a brownfield project. What do you think will be the top 2 to 3 challenges? And it can be sharp, that's fine.
See, I think this is a tough one to answer because we are on a, you know, कोई बातें घर की होती है. तो but इतना कहना चाहूँगा मैं कि the fact that things can move faster are an element of surprise in government many times. That and it is not necessary that it is a fundamental issue. It's just that sometimes what happens is, and every single person who is working within the government, otherwise associated with the government, I think everybody here works with the government, works with a very virtuous intention to execute something. I think the focused will is the key, and in this regime you will notice one thing which I can assure you is that execution will be the only parameter that we are focused on. We have talked a lot already, the government has talked a lot. So that surprise element कि ये हो सकता है, मतलब एक example देना चाहूँगा मैं कि we were doing the government of Maharashtra was partnering with the film society to do a Mami event. It was one of international film festivals, and in a discussion with the Mavi representatives, which had the likes of all your stars, Deepika Padukone and the likes Karan Johar, and they were thinking of, you know, what could be the iconic place to do the opening of Mami. And the thought was that, so some suggestions came and somebody kind of said Gateway of India. And there was so much of resistance. No. The Gateway of India is not possible. And believe, we did it on Gateway of India. How we did it is a different story altogether. And when the Chief Minister opened his speech, his first line was that few years ago, this was the same site that we were under siege. Today we celebrate our freedom and throw caution to the world that nothing can stop us. So that is what it is all about. So administration, leadership, I think political leadership and administrative leadership, when they join hands together with a common intention and a goal, nothing is impossible. Nothing.
Very, very quickly I will say, see, in a government system, it's been taught since the beginning that you need to be cautious because it's not your money. It's not a corporate money. It's a public money. Usually the bureaucrats or even the system which works, it says better late than sorry. It's quite easy to spend the money. You know, couple of months back, you know, there was a very senior officer who was asking me, he said, you come from the private sector. What's the key difference between private sector and the public sector? I say in government sector, you have given me, let's say, 200 crores to spend. And every 31st of April, you will give me another 200 crores to spend. In a private sector, to spend 200 crores, you need to earn 20,000 crores first. You will not be allowed to spend any money. Here you are asked the question why you have not spent. Here, other side, you have asked the question why you have not earned. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which is extremely important, is the priority. When you are going for a public spending, so we are all educated people coming from urban. Now, few days back, we were sitting in for the cabinet meeting, and suddenly it announced there is a tank breach in Nellore. The tank breach, and when Daljit Singh is already saying that, Chennai mein, Tirupati ki train band ho gayi. Now, what do you do at that time? You have to pull out. Everything stops. When there is a public calamity, if something happened with the public, all the resources, all the focus goes there. So priority changes immediately, and that changes setback. So I think these are two things, like priority and also the spending the public money cautiously. None of the officer or none of the politician will spend money on wrong thing.
That's very good views and thoughts. Thank you. Thank you to my entire panel, and thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. Is there anything else that we are expected to do? Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dhawse, for the very interesting and interactive panel discussion. And also thank you for supporting us in putting up this show. And you have been a great support. A round of applause for Mr. Kostov for this once, please. I'll request you, Mr. Dhawse, to present memento to our esteemed panelist on stage. Mr. N.V. Patel, who is the chairman of Vadodara Urban Development Authority, Government of Gujarat. Mr. Nikhil Agarwal, CEO of Innovation Society, Department of Information Technology, Electronics and Communications, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Mr. Prashant Chaudhary, he is a Senior Director, Sales, Government of CA Technologies. And Mr. Harjinder Kohli, Vice President and Head of Government Vertical at Bharti Airtel Limited. Respected moderator and esteemed panelists, I request all of you to, and before that, I request Mr. Prashant Chaudhary to present a memento to Mr. Dhawse, please, for his very interesting and fantastic moderatorship, and a group photo is requested.